dive deep into today's business, modern JavaScript and React. So before I talk about React, let me just talk about JavaScript because in our last class, we didn't have time. I mean, we couldn't cover JavaScript. But as you may know, JavaScript is used to, implement interactiveness to make your site interactive. Yeah, for your site to have a certain behavior, you need JavaScript. All right, so that you can just have a beautiful website, just static. All right, so with that being said, in our last class, we did a little mini project where we built something. And I think we're going to convert that into a React app in this class. Let me just, first of all, go live. So in our last class, we successfully built the navbar of there's this site, I call it tutor site, just a place to learn. It's just more like a landing page where you can see front-end languages and probably learn. Although with what we have right now, you can't actually learn, but it's just more like a landing page for a company that teaches HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So in our last class, we were able to do just the navbar. Yes, then this class is not intended to continue and build these things using just HTML and CSS. All right. So I had to just build, like the hero page so that I can use it, convert it into a React app because this class is intended for React. So we want to convert this page into a React app. What we'll be learning for this course, we're going to be learning, we'll learn variables, we'll learn functions, we'll learn how to destructure, destructure an array or an object. We'll still learn template literals. Second, please. Then we'll know what React is, how to create a React app, how to split a web page into piece of components. Our focus will be on components. Yeah. So, all right. With that being said, let's dive deep. So, if we were to back to our previous work. If we were to normally use JavaScript in this our work, we'll use vanilla JavaScript because this is just a page where we have HTML and CSS. We are coding things statically. Nothing is dynamic, nothing is interactive. So here we use HTML, we use CSS. So if we want to add interactiveness, we would come and use vanilla JavaScript. I had a folder that is just JS representing JavaScript. So ideally, to add JavaScript to our work, we'll just create a JavaScript file. Let me just undo and do it again. Let me repeat the process again. Because I just did this one here though I have not written any JavaScript yet. All right, so if we're to do this, we'll just have to create a folder called JS. I like organizing my work. I like the way my CSS file is in my CSS folder and images is in my images folder. So I will still have my JavaScript file in my JavaScript folder. And the JavaScript file can have any name. Yeah, but one popular name that is being used is app.js or min.js or even index.js. All right, but there's no restriction in the kind of name you can use. You can use any name for your JavaScript file. So this is how, I've created a JavaScript file. A JavaScript file has the extension .js. So if I was to link it to my HTML, I will just simply I'll use the script tag. Before my body closing tag, I'll add a script tag. If I just type in script, I don't need to type it in full. I will see different suggestions. So I will select the script that has src. All right, so then I want to link that JavaScript file because my HTML file does not know that there's an existing JavaScript sitting somewhere. So I want to link that JavaScript file. So to link it in the src, I'll just press my /. It's going to show me where I am. I'm in the root folder. I'll go to my assets, I'll go to JS, and I'll go to index.js. So once I do that, I've now linked my JavaScript file. So here I can write JavaScript file. It becomes execute. For instance, I can just console log. Let me just console log welcome to JavaScript. Console log, for those of you who are actually new into web development. Console log is just a way of displaying something in your browser's console. So maybe I want to display something. Okay, first of all, you want to know which one is browser console? Where is browser console? Now, let me just first of all go live. Most of us might just know the browser. Sorry, let me just take this note. All right, so most of us might just know the browser tab. This is a tab in the browser. And most of you may not know, not or maybe some of you may not know that there's a place called browser console. And to see the console, you press Ctrl Shift I, it takes you to what they call browser console. So yeah, if I want to display something in my browser console that says maybe welcome to JavaScript or learn JavaScript, I'm going to use, I want to type in console.log, console.log. All right. Now then I can now just output a string that says welcome to JavaScript. For those of you who are new, a string is any character that is enclosed between quotes. So I just output a string that says welcome to JavaScript. If I check it, I will see it in my console. Actually, you're not building your website for someone to come and look at a console to find whatever you are building in the website, you are building it for the the browser, the page, the browser, not on the console. But developers use console for debuggers purposes, for testing purposes. Sometimes it can be when you are building a website, you want to test, you want to output something and see if it's giving you what you want to see. And then you don't want to do it in your browser, so you just use console. It's just for testing purposes. Yeah. When we start learning front-end web development, we're going to make use of this thing very well to become clear to you. All right. So I just did show you how to add JavaScript file. This is an external JavaScript file that we added. We have not written anything yet. All right. So there's a lot to learn in JavaScript. From variable, data type, function, loops, and the rest. But our main focus today is on ESCs. Due to the time constraint that we have, we're going to look at ESCs. And I won't really emphasize much. I'll just delve into React because we want to just introduce React. Because the assignments will be given to you today is going to be related to that React. So, all right. First of all, let me just, okay. First of all, when we say modern JavaScript, it's just some latest features that were added to JavaScript, like the ES6 plus features. When you say ES6, it has to do with features that was introduced from 2015 and above. All right, there's some features that were introduced initially. JavaScript was is good, actually it's okay, but there were some nice features that weren't there before. For instance, when you create variables in JavaScript, for those of you who don't know variables are containers for storing data. So when you create variables in JavaScript, the variables is just, there's no scope. It can be accessed anywhere. You cannot say, okay, this variable should only be accessed in this function. There is no scope. But with the introduction of lets and const, we now have what they call a block scope variables, where you can declare a variable and it's going to have a scope that is just on that place where it was declared. Yeah, then again, for functions, we had functions before. A function is just a piece of code that have a specific task. For instance, now, if I was to write a simple function here, let me just write a function that is just meant to say, you're going to say, okay, um, let's just say learn function in JavaScript. So I want to write a function, and I want the function to output something. Maybe instead of us to see this title, let me just go back to our web page in our browser. In our web page, let me collapse this. Let me collapse this. Okay, in our web page, the main hero page says learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, let me assume I want to write a function that will change this entire text. So we'll not be seeing learn HTML and CSS. We'll just see learn JavaScript and React. So if I want to do that, I can use a function to do that. I'll simply write a function like this. Sorry, typo. Function. So to create a function or to declare a function, you use the keyword function. So when I write function, okay, we say the function is a piece of code that is meant to perform a particular task. In fact, the name function was gotten from what it does. So it's more like a piece of code that performs a particular function. So maybe I want to write a function that says, and what I want to do is that I want to get this my H1 that says learn HTML. I want to get this element. Then I want to change the inner text. Instead of it to display this, it should display something else. So for me to get it first, there are many ways you can get element, but one easier way is to get an element by its ID. There are many ways. There's the query selector, or there's the get element by tag name, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to focus on, I'll just use document.get element by ID. So I'm going to give this thing an ID so I can get it. For you to be able to change an element or to modify an element with JavaScript, you need to first of all get the element. So I'm going to get it by an ID. The ID will be, let me just say, and I'll just say hero test. Hero test. Okay. So I'm going to, let me just say hero title. Yes, hero. Let me just use hero title instead of hero test. Hero title. So I'm going to get this element by this ID. So I'll use documents, and please, when you type in, it's recommended that you follow suggestion. That is to avoid typo, because as newbies, the tendencies of you making typo. So documents dot get element by ID. So the ID, the ID is called, this is the ID here. You might need to copy it so you don't make mistakes. So the ID is hero test. So I'll get it by its ID, which is hero test. Then I want to access the inner test. The inner test means the test inside the element, which is all of this test here. So there's a property called inner test. All of these are DOM features. If you learn JavaScript, when you learn document object model, you understand why we're using document.get element by ID. So I want to access the inner test, and I want to change it to a string. Yeah, time will not permit us seriously, because there's what we call string in JavaScript also. A string is any character that is surrounded in between quotes. So I want to type in something that says maybe learn JavaScript. All right, so I've written a piece of code that is meant to, okay, let me give this function a name. All right, let me just give it a name. Yeah, a function. I'll call the function change. Let me just say change title. I use camel casing for this function. Okay, so I use camel casing. So the function, we have a function that is called change title. This is the function name. The function name is called change title. And from this code written here, this shows that the function has a duty of just getting an element that has an ID of hero title and changing the inner text from whatever it is. We are assigning it to something new. So we are reassigning it to a different text that says learn JavaScript. So if I look at my browser, it's not going to work. I mean, if I check, this test is still looking at me. It's not working. Because for a function to work, you have to invoke the function. To invoke the function, all you just have to do is to call the function's name, like which is change title. So invoke is like calling his name. When you call his name, it will now answer. Just like you're having a gate man. His duty is to open the gate. All right. If you don't call him, he will not do his job. So you have to probably call him and say, okay, call his name and say, open the gate, or you just phone probably. They should be able to call him for it to perform his duty. So the same thing with this function here. So when I invoke the function can now perform its duty, which is changing that text, whatever it is. All right. So yeah, I wanted to just I didn't this is I'm not going to say anything yet, but I'm just trying to show you something now. Now, this function now can be changed to an arrow function. An arrow function is just the same thing as a function. It's just a better way of writing function, a shorter way of writing function. So if I was to change this function to an arrow function, how would I do it? Okay, before I let me just for now let me comment this. Let me write this thing in form of an arrow function. I'm trying to keep the class very simple. I don't want to do anything advanced with JavaScript. So if I want to write this thing as an arrow function, how would I do it? I can just create a variable. I can say let change title be equals to, I'll put a bracket, which is this bracket here. And I'll now put an arrow. This is how I'll write the arrow. And then I'll now put this code that let me don't write it again, just make us pass since I've written before. So I'll paste it. All right. Please, if at any point anybody cannot hear me, just let me know, please. If at any point my voice is not audible enough, or just let me know, please. Okay, can anyone hear? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you.
All right, all right, all right. Okay, so I have converted this function to an arrow function. So as usual, it's not going to work unless the function is invoked. And to invoke the function is as simple as just calling the function which is change title. You call it along with the parentheses, and then it does its work, which is to change the function. All right, enough of okay. I've just shown you arrow function. Yeah, let me just create a React app. Anything we are doing, we'll do it from a React app henceforth. So I want to just create a React app so that we can treat the rest inside a React app. So there are many ways, or I know two ways. Yeah, I think there are basically two ways to create. Yeah, there are many ways, but there are two major ways to create a React app. Just in case you forget, if you go to React websites, you go to their documentation. Once you just search React on Google, you are going to see their sites just pop out, Google search engine. And if you click on it, you can read through all of their documentation about how to create React app. When you click on learn, you can see everything you need to know. For installation, if you click on installation, you will see all of the steps that you need to know in order for you to create a React app. All right, I've shown you where it is, but let me just go ahead and create a React app. So I'm just going to, I'll just open my terminal. Before you can be able to create a React app, you need to have Node installed in your system. And for you to install Node, you need to, if you just go to your browser and you type Node and you search it, that is the first option you will see. So you need to have Node installed, at least from version 16 point and above. Just install the latest version of Node. You can just, I already have Node, so I will not go through the process of installing Node on my system. So when you click on download Node, you install it. It's just like installing any other application. It's very simple and straightforward. So when you install Node and you have Node, in some cases you might need to, in some system, you need to restart your system. Yeah, you may need to just restart your system. Yeah, but I already have Node installed. And for you to confirm if you have Node on your system, just type node -v. Okay, before I type, let me introduce you to the command line. So that's what we call command line or the terminal. Yeah, in your system. Back then, when a computer was produced, all right, before they start developing all this GUI, all this your graphics user interface, initially your computer was kind of super boring. For you to operate your computer, you do it from the terminal. You write command. You know, the computer is a machine, so you give it a command and it executes. So back then, if I want to create a file, I don't just go here and start creating, maybe create a folder or create a file. I just have to just use the terminal. So how you can access your terminal is just when you click on if you click on search self and you just type in terminal, you will see command prompts. Just open your command prompt. It's same thing as terminal. Just open it. It will take you to your terminal. So right now I'm in my terminal. Okay, so let me just go to my desktop. And another way is for you to just click on your desktop like this. If you right click, you will see open in terminal, which is the best way. Just click on your desktop, anywhere in your desktop, click on it, right click, you will see open in terminal. So when it opens in terminal, it opens your desktop straight forward, which is better because if you use the other approach, you still need to navigate to your desktop. So I rather follow this approach here where it just take me straight to my desktop. So right now I'm in my desktop. I want to create my React app on my desktop. So I'm going to run the command npm. I want to use Vite to create React app. We have another way that was initially provided by the React team that is called CRE, which means create React app. Before I also create React app, what is this React? So React is just a JavaScript library that is used for building user interface. It's a library. It's not like a framework. All right. If you have been in this game, if you have been learning front end, you would have heard of libraries and front end libraries and front end framework. Yeah, there's this contrast between two of them. Like we have many front end library. I mean, like me, I've used Vue.js. Sorry, not like let me talk about framework first. We have many front end framework. Like I've used Vue.js, I've used Bootstrap, I've used Tailwind. All these are like frameworks. Then library, React is a library. All right. jQuery is a library. jQuery was the old library that was used before React came out. I think I've used jQuery before. Those early days when I started coding, I was using jQuery. All right. So yeah, React is a library. Library is more like a tool. A framework is like a set of tools. Okay. But we are focused in this React, which is a tool. All right. It's a tool for building uh responsive user interface. All right. So it was developed by Meta, that was formerly known as Facebook. Facebook, as their application was getting complex and complex, they had to develop a tool to manage their sites, and that was how they developed this React. It helps them manage such a complex site. It helps them, I mean, it helps their developers, their different developers to manage all these sites. I mean, this one can work on this particular component, and the other work on this component, just like that, just like that, just like that. So, and using React helps your code clean, reusable. All right. So now that we know what React is, I just gave you a little history. Let us know how to create a React app. So to create a React app, you just npm. We can use Vite. Okay. Like I said, we have a command that is called create React app, which is deprecated. So one other way to do it right now is by using Vite. They are all in. If you read through the documentation, they are all there. They are all there. So to use Vite, the way to do it is you say npm create Vite at latest. This week, we're trying to use latest Vite to create a React app. So I say npm create Vite at latest. When I hit enter, I'll give it some time. It's going to ask me to write the name of my project. So let me just say, I'll just say, let me say React tutor site. Okay, let me just say React tutor site. So I'll hit enter. So it's going to ask me what particular framework do I want to create, because this Vite is also a package that's used to create different frameworks. So for now, we want to just do for React. So you are with your arrow up and down, you can hover to React and select React. So it's going to ask you, do you want to use JavaScript or TypeScript? I will use TypeScript. TypeScript is a better way of, writing or creating a React application. It helps when it comes to errors handling and the rest. All right, so I will just choose TypeScript. All right, so it tells me done. So it gives me a certain command to run. It said I should CD means change directory. Say I should change directory. That means I should go inside the React app, because if I check my desktop, on my desktop, I have the app sitting on my desktop. Let me just see if I can find it. This is okay, no, not that one. The app is somewhere here. I don't know. Okay. I won't start looking for it because I have many stops here, but it's on my desktop here. Okay. If you search, you will see it there. So I don't want to. Okay, this is the app here. That is it. React tutor site. So now I'm giving some command to go into that folder that is called React tutor site. And to go there for my command, it's just by clicking CD. The command is already, you can just copy it. It's already here in full. CD React tutor site. So I can just copy and paste it. If I hit enter, it will take me into that folder. Then I want to install some dependencies that is needed for this application. So to install it, I'll use npm install. The reason why I'm using npm is because I have Node. If you don't have Node and you try to run all these npm commands, it will tell you npm is not, it's not a language. It will give an error. So I want to run npm install. So when I run npm install, which is same thing as npm I, it's going to install all the dependencies like things that our app will depend on. There's some libraries that our app depends on to function. So I'll run npm install. I will give it some time. It just depends on network. It's going to install dependencies. So let me just hold on a bit. So while it's in the process, let me just let's continue. So I've explained to you what JavaScript, what React is used for. All right, and like I said, it's a JavaScript library. It was built with JavaScript. All right, we're still on some JavaScript ES6 features, and I did mention some features like let and const. Let and const, before variable was created using var, just var, but now it is now created using let or const. This helps to define scope. And again, arrow function is just a better way of writing your functions. Then we have what they call template literals. Template literals actually helps in when you're doing what they call string interpolation. Like when you're missing strings and variables, initially there's a way you write these things and it becomes boring. Okay, for instance, let me just show you what I mean now. Why my app is still installing. Let me do something. I want to have a variable that is going to store my name. So I'll say let my name be equals to Evans. All right. So I want to print out hello Evans, learn JavaScript. All right. So initially, how I would do these things is that for me to be able to pass this variable inside this string, let me first of all erase this and do it again. Okay, first of all, I would say hello. I'll put a space. Then for me to bring in this over here, I cannot write, a variable is a container for storing data. So if I want this Evans to be printed out, I can just call the variable name. So I cannot call it here. I have to now use what they call plus. Like it's called the plus operator is used to concatenate. So I have to use this plus to bring in to add this guy, which is my name. So when I say hello, my name, if I show you my browser, what you will see is hello Evans. Then I will now still come again and add another string. I'll use the plus to add another string that says learn JavaScript. All right, so all of this plus, all of this space could get tiring, like it get boring. So this was taken care of by template literals. So when you are using template literals, you wouldn't need all this plus. All of these things can be written using template literals. And the template literals is to use template literals is a key before your number one. It's called backtick. That key before number one. When you press that key, then you can now write your hello. Now, if I want to put this variable here, I'm going to use $sign, curly braces, and then I can now type in my variable, which is my name. Hello, my name. I will now say learn JavaScript. So this way, I've been able to use template literals to avoid making use of plus and the rest. So this is just, I'm just trying to explain some ES6 features before, because my APN install is still in the process. It's still installing. So I'm trying to go over some of these ES6 features. All right. Okay, thank God it is completely installed. So let's proceed now. So I can now serve my React app. I have just created my React app, so I can now serve it. So how do I serve my React app? I can simply serve it by just writing npm run dev. You see all these are commands. When you write the command, the computer understands that, okay, yes, you're trying to serve your React application in a particular port. It's being served at port 5173. Your own might be served at port 3000. All right, so let me just, so I will just have to just open that port and I'm going to see my React app. So this is my React application. All right. So I want to start building our sites using my React application. Okay. So what I will just do is that let me also open that React application on my VS Code. I can just simply do that by, let me just, this is the folder here. I can right click. You will, in your own system, you might have the option to open with VS Code. But if you don't have the option to open with VS Code, like the way it is on my system, just click on open in terminal and type code space and dots. Code space and dots will help you to open that folder in your default text editor. In my own case, my default text editor is VS Code. When I press enter, it's going to open my React application on my VS Code. All right, so I have this. I can get rid of all this work. I don't need them. So yeah, that's some folders. I'll just do some brief explanation. Like here we have your node modules. These node modules is where all the third party libraries are being installed. You don't have any business with this. Don't touch it. You have your public. Your public is where some of the files that is attached to our site is being stored. Like files like your video, your image, your audio, and the rest. They are stored in your public. They can also be stored inside your SRC. SRC is where the main content of your site is. It also contains a folder that is assets that can still carry those images and the rest. We'll go over it. All right, so let's proceed. Then I will leave everything. Yeah, everything. Let me just focus on, because of time. Let's just focus on building an app. So if you open this SRC, or even before you open your SRC, you will see a file called index, your index.html. All right. It is your server is serving this your index file. All right. Someone will say, okay, how comes my server is serving this? But I mean, I'm not saying there's no code. There's no, all of this thing that's being built. It's not there. I mean, all of these pictures, this stuff here, all of these things, they are not here. But yeah, this is the page that has been served. Yeah, because that's because React, all right, has what they call components. All right, there's some component that is being rendered in this div that is called root. For instance, component like if you open your SRC, you will see your you will see your app.css. Sorry, not CSS, not app.css. Your app.css. CSS means TypeScript. You're using TypeScript. So yeah, you can run React app in JavaScript or TypeScript. JavaScript is CSS, CSS is TypeScript. TypeScript is just JavaScript, but here now, it pay attention to types. It's just a better way of writing JavaScript. All right, so in this app.css, this is where all of those things that you are seeing, this is where they're being created. For instance, now, if I come here and I comment this logo, if you check our application, that first logo is gone. If I even comment the second one, you will see that the two pictures, they are no more again. So it is this component that is being rendered by our React DOM. If you go to main.css, you will see where it is being rendered. All right. So the app.css is a component that is being rendered. Okay, let me just even do a brief one about all of these components. All right, so that you understand what components are. But before I do that, let me first of all, I will go to my app.css. I'm going to remove everything I have here, and I want to render our website, our tutor landing page. All right, so all of these things here. In fact, I'm going to remove everything. I don't need them. If I remove everything, if you check our site is, let me refresh first. Our site is wiped clean, is blank. So I already designed that our other site we're doing with HTML and that tutorial. So I'll just copy the code and I'll drop it. So let me just copy all of this code. I'll copy from this, everything in the body. All right. I'll copy everything in the body tag. Let me just collapse them so I can easily copy them. So this is all I need. I'll copy it. I don't want the JavaScript. So I'll go to my React application. Now, this is a component, okay? It's a component. So it's a component that is going to be rendered in our index.html in our root folder. This is our index.html. Yeah, there's a div that has an ID of root. So it will be rendered in this place here to be replaced. If you check your main.css, you will see where all of this happening. Like, I mean, we're using document.getElement by ID to get this element that has an ID of roots. And then we are using street mode to render a component. That's why when you check here, you will see you are seeing this street mode. Just don't worry about it. Just leave it for now. It just used to render our app component in the street mode. So let me just go back and proceed. So I want to create this component. How do we create components in React? There are different ways to create components. We use both the we use a function, all right, to create component. There's function based, there's class based, but one popular and easier way is by using function. So I'm going to use a function process to create this component. So let me create it now. To create a component, you just simply type function, and you type the name of the component. In our own case, it's app. And when you're creating components, the name should be use Pascal case, where the first word and every new word start with capital letter. So function So function app, then you put your parentheses. Because I've said it before that if you're creating function, the first thing you do is to use the keyword function. Then you type name of the function. Then you put your parentheses. Then you put your curly braces. All right. So after that, when you create the function, you have to, okay, well, let me just complete creation of the function before I export it. So yeah, the next thing you will do, you use the return. I want to return those piece of codes. So I'll use return. All right. Now I'm going to put my, the return is a method. So I'll put my brackets. Then let me state what I'm returning. So I want to return, I can just return maybe a paragraph that says hello world. Hello world. Let me just return the paragraph that says hello world first before I do something more advanced. So, all right. The next thing I'm going to do, I want to export this component so that it can be accessed somewhere. It's created, but you have to export it for it to be read somewhere. To export it, you use export default, then component name, which is app. All right. So since I've done this, if I check my site, let me refresh. You can see my hello world here staring at me because it's now exported. All right. So the next thing I will do, I don't want to export hello world. I want to export all of this my code. So I'm going to remove this hello world and export those code. I want to export all those things we created. All right. So if I just paste it with Control V, I'm going to have a problem because in JSS, you're only meant to return just one element. But here, there are many elements. There's a nav element, there's a session element, and so on and so forth. There are many. So because there are many, I have to use a fragment to I have to put everything inside a fragment. Some persons will just create a div, all right, and put everything inside a div. This way it works fine. I mean, creating a div and putting everything inside a div, it works fine. But to me, why I don't like this way is because this approach is like you're creating a new element that was not there. You're adding a new element to the DOM that was not there before. So I don't really like this approach. So instead, I like using a fragment. And to do that, it's as simple as just simply putting this angle brackets. Just put your left angle bracket and close it. It gives you something like this. This is your angle brackets opening tab. This is the closing tab. Then within it, I can now paste my code. All right. I have an extension called Prettier that helps me to format my code. For those who need that Prettier, it's as simple as going to extension and searching for Prettier. I won't go into it because of time. Yeah, you can just check how to install Prettier into your VS Code because you are learning React. There's some extension that helps your work easy, that helps to format your code. So I use Prettier. If you have a question, you can just raise your hand so that I can. Okay, I can see some messages. All right. Good evening, everyone. Please do it. Okay. All right. Okay. So if you have a question or if there's anything you understand, you can just call my attention. I can give a recap. All right. So I just created a fragment that carry all my elements. Because if I try to paste all my code here, I cannot paste once the code is more than one. It's an issue. It will not work. Like, okay, let me just repeat the example now. For instance, if I create a paragraph like this, maybe I type in hello world, let me just say hello. It's okay. But when there are two elements, maybe I have another H1 that says maybe welcome. It becomes a problem once there are two elements. So the only way you can do it is to wrap everything inside one element, which is the fragment element. So you can put everything inside. Here I can have 2 or 3 or so. So let me just paste back those code I copied before, and let me continue from there. So I have this created. All right. Now let's see it. Let's visualize it in a React app. So I've not copied my CSS, so it's just not fine. So let me take my CSS. And I'm sure some of you may have done this task before, where I say you should build this tutorial landing page. So you can just copy your code and use. I'm going to make my code available for after the class for people to just copy and use. So I want to take this CSS, which I have created to style my page. So I will take it over to my React app. In my React app, I have a file that is called index.css. I want to put in the CSS that I created. Then in my app.css, sorry, in my app.css, I don't want this CSS there. All these defaults, let me just take it out. So I will select them, I will take it out. I just really want my own CSS, which is what I have in my index.css. Some persons may just delete all these things and create a new one, but to me, let's just use, I just get rid of the existing code and I put in my own code. So if I do it, if I check my site is now taking shape. Though we didn't have our pictures because yes, we've not copied those pictures, but we'll do that soon enough. But meanwhile, let's just start building. All right. So what I want to do first, I want to start by teaching you how to create a component. All right, because in my UI, let me find the UI because I did prepare a UI for this class. I just modified the existing UI. So in my UI is opening. Let's just give it a few seconds. Not this one, sorry. Okay, this is it. So in my UI, I have this is what I prepared for this class. So I want this navbar to be a component. The reason why I want it to be a component is because I want to be able to use it again. You can see I still have the navbar below. So I want to be able to reuse that component again and again. So to do it, I have to put this navbar inside a component. So let me create a navbar component. So to do that, I will go to my app.tsx. All right. Where I have my navbar, I'm going to let me take it out. I will take out my navbar code. I can cut it out. I don't want it here. All right. So if I check my site now, you will notice that I don't have a navbar again. So I'm going to create a component for it. So all my components can be in my SRC folder. So I want to create a component. So I'll click on new file. I'll create a component that is called navbar. So when you're creating your components, always ensure to use Pascal casing. Okay, this is just one. Navbar is just one word. So I can just say navbar. Now, because it's a TypeScript file, I'll say .tsx. All right, so I'm still creating this component. So for me to create this component, we want to use the approach we use when we're creating the app components from scratch. So to create this component, I have to write the keyword function, after which I'll write my component name. Sorry, this is a typo, please. Function, and I will write the name of my component, which is navbar. Then I'll put my brackets, and I'll put in curly braces. So I'll use the return keyword to return what is in my navbar. So I want to return those codes. So to do it, I'll just say return. It's a method. Then inside that parenthesis, I'll put in my fragment. In between it, I can now type my code. If I press Ctrl S, I've already used prettier. So once I press Ctrl S, it format my code for me. So now I have the one in here that the one is saying navbar is declared, but its value is never read. So I've created a component, but it cannot be read unless you export it out. So to export it, I'll come to the ending. I'm going to write export default navbar. And I write it, that one disappears. So I've exported it from this place. I can now import it anywhere. So I want to import it in my CSS because now it's created, but if you look at my site, you cannot still see my navbar because it has not been imported anywhere. It has been created and exported, but hasn't yet been imported. So if I want to import it, all I just have to do is to go to my app. Since I want to use it in my app.css, I'll go there. So before I import it, I'll go above my code before my function. I will say import, then I'll call the component name, which is navbar. Once I select navbar, it's going to write the path location of this navbar. All right, I have extensions for that. So now it's imported. If yours does not import, you might have to just do it by yourself. When you write import navbar, you will type from, then you put your quotes, you put the paths dot slash, you will see your navbar here, just here. So I had it imported. Now you're saying navbar is declared, but its value is never read. So I want the navbar to be used somewhere here. So I'll come to my code. Now to use that navbar, I will write it. It's not like an element. A component is not like an element, right? So to write it as an element, you now say, you put your angle brackets and you type your navbar. Then you ensure to close it. So I've imported it, I've used it here. So if I check my page, I would see my navbar. So it means if I want my navbar to be at the bottom, just the way it is in my UI here, if I want a navbar at the bottom, all I just have to do is to come to the bottom and import. I can just come to the last side of the page. Maybe the last thing I will just do is also to import navbar. I can just, okay, let me just write it again. So to use it here is just to call the element navbar. So have you seen that components helps you to create reusable code? If you were to write this thing in your HTML, you will write this thing over and over again. But notice how we used one code in two places with the help of components. So this component is used, this component that was created here, this navbar component, is now what is being used here in two places in my app.css. All right. So now let me convert all that things in my page to components because many things are being hand coded. The code is too much here. I want to convert. So maybe what I will do is that I'm going to start. I'm going to start from maybe this one here. Okay, maybe I won't do. All right. I think I will start from this. I'm going to convert this to a component, and I'll use it here and here. So let me just do this real quick. So, okay. So I'm going to go to my code. Where I have this hero section div, I think I'll just copy this guy, this div here. I want to put it as a component so I can reuse it anywhere in my code. Okay, maybe what I will do, I think I will start from something that is more easier. I think I will just pick this one instead. I will start from this one here because this one is kind of quite easy for me to just quickly use as a component. So let me just do those ones real quick. So all of these learn HTML, learn CSS, and learn JavaScript, which gives me what I have, which gives me what I have here. This must be HTML, CSS. Let me just correct it. This is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So let me just do it. Now, I want this card. This card was written 3 times. It was written here in this courses div. We wrote this thing 3 times. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. This is too much coding. Why not I can convert these things I can convert this card into a component and use it 3 times. So I could just come here and take out, let me just take out 2. I only need 1. Let me take out the 2. So I only have just 1, which is this one here. So I'm going to convert it into a component and use it 3 times. So for me to do it, I could just come here and take out this code. Let me take it out. I'll create a component. I'll call it course, like our course is like course. So I'll go to my SRC, I'll create a new file. I'll call it course.tsx. Because HTML is a course, CSS is a course, JavaScript is a course. Or I can even call it language, but let me just call it course.tsx because this is like the courses available. So yeah, now as usual, to create these components, you will say you write um your function, then you write the name of the function, which in our own case is course. Then you put your brackets, then you put your curly braces. Then I'll use the return key, return. So return is a method, so it carries brackets. I'll use the return to return all of those codes inside a fragment. So I have to create this fragment code first. And I want to return all of these codes here. Now, for me to be able to use this component, I have to export it from here. I have to export it. So I'll come here, I'll say export default. Then the name of the component, which is course. Export default course. All right. So now I've exported. So I have to import it where I want it to be used. So let me go to where I want it to be used. I want it to be used in my app.tsx in this place here. So before I use it here, I have to import it. So I could just come here and let me just say import course. Once you just select it, to just give you the path. So yes, I've imported it, but I've not used it. So to use it, I'll go to where I want to use it. I want to use it somewhere here. So I can just go here and just type course. Ensure to close your tag. Now, if I check, you can see it is here. So if I want 3 of it, all I need to do is just to use Shift Alt down to duplicate, just to duplicate. If I have 3 here, it's going to give me 3 of them. Now I want to do something. Now I don't like the fact that when I import them, it just comes with, I mean, because in my design, what I have in my design is, first one is HTML, second one is CSS, the third one is JavaScript. But here in my CSS, sorry, here in my app.css, when I open my browser page, I'm just having my, sorry, let me go back. I'm just having HTML, HTML, HTML. So I want to be able to render the content dynamically. I want to render these things dynamically. So what I'll just do to render it, I'm going to use what they call props. That's what we call props. All right. Props is used to pass data into a component. For instance, now, here where I use my components, okay, wouldn't it be nice if I can specify which data that will be contained in this component? Because the component normally now, it has just some static write-up that cannot be changed. Like right, the way it is used now, someone cannot change it. Anytime you call this component, it just empties what is carrying, which is this content, HTML. So what if I want to output this course element and I want it to carry a title as a title that is CSS or JavaScript? I don't want it to carry this HTML. Would there be a way to do it when you are calling the component? Of course. There's a way you can call this component and type the data that will show when the component is being displayed. So if I type in CSS when I'm calling the component, it is CSS that you will see. If I type in JavaScript, it is JavaScript that you will see. So yes, there's a way, and that way is by using props. Is by using props. All right. So now we're going to do it real quick. We're going to do it real quick. All right. I'm going to go to my course. So before I can be able to use props, since I'm using a TypeScript, I need to define the interface of these props. This interface now is just, there's a keyword they call interface they use when you're creating props. You just used to define the type of the props that will be used. For instance, now I don't want to type in HTML. I want to pass a text that is called title here, so that anywhere I use the components, I can define what title represents when using the component. So instead of me to have HTML here, I want to have a static, sorry, a dynamic data here that can be anything. So I will use title to represent it. Title, title. All right. It's a prop. So yeah, let me explain that it's a props. Now, before I should even do this, I should have declared the interface of this title, telling if it is a string or if it's a boolean or if it's an array or whatsoever. So I'm going to come on top here. I'll type in a keyword interface. All right. So in this interface, I am going to describe all the props I'll be using. So I will just, when I say interface, I will type in props. Meaning I want to define the interface of my props. So I'll type in props. Sorry. What am I doing? Okay. Then I will open curly braces. Inside my curly braces, any prop that I'm going to use, I will define the prop and the type. So for instance, I want to make use of title. So here I'll come here and I will say title. And I will explain that title should be a string. All right. I would like you guys to really learn frontend. I mean, after this masterclass, I will encourage you guys to register and learn frontend so that we can take you through all the steps. Because for beginners, you might find this a bit confusing because I mean, for you to do React, you need to be very solid in JavaScript. All right. So for title, it's going to be string. Then I want to also have this to be like a description. So here, for description, I don't want to type in the content. I want to have a prop called description. And I will define it here. So for description, I also want it to be a string. Then here in between these parentheses of my function, I'm going to destructure this interface here because I want to use the title description. All right. And what I have is props. So I want, instead of me to start accessing them by saying props.title and the rest, I want to just destructure the array. Okay, for those who are new, let me explain what the structuring is. Maybe I'll just do it as I'll go back to my other code and explain the structuring. Yeah, though you will clearly understand the structuring if you have done array and objects. But let's suppose that you have an array. Maybe you have an array called my names, and this is an array. An array is just a way of storing multiple data. This is an array. I have my names. Let me just use. Okay, I've already used the array before. Let me just say I have an array of full name. Full name. Full name should be. Let me just say I want to put my full name. Evans or EDK. I want to store it as a string. EDK. Then Evans. Then Undoma. This is my full name. All right, this is an array. If I want to access, I have to go back to my other code for me to explain. I don't want to put this thing in my React application so that it won't be too confusing. I want to just leave our app for strictly to build that site we're building. So I have this an array. Let full name be equals to EDK Evans Undoma. If I want to access, if I want to access this, if I want to get Evans, I have to access, let me just use console log. Console.log. If I want to output Evans, I'll come here, I'll use the index, I'll call the array name, which is full name of index2. This is index, sorry, of index1. So this is how I'll be able to call this Evans, full name of index1. If I want Undoma, I'll say full name of index2. If I want EDK, I'll say full name of index0. But I can destructure this thing like this. Sorry, just trying to clear my throat. Okay. I can structure this thing like this. I can say, let me have my first name. Let me just say first name. I'll use F name for first name. I will also have M for middle name, M name for middle name. And then I'll have L name for last name. Then I'll assign it to this variable called full name. All right. I've just destructured so that if I want to access now, if I write it like this now, this is something as, okay, let me just put it in one line so you can see. This full name is just like, the same thing as bringing this guy here. Let me just put it here. Yeah. So, but since I already have it before, I'll just call it full name. So if I do it like this, it means my first name is now this EDK, my middle name is now Evans, and my last name is now Undoma. Let me use camel casing because this is not appropriate to JavaScript. JavaScript, every new word begins with capital letter. All right. So I've destructured it now. So here, if I come here and console log, let me comment this one now. If I console log, my first name, I'm going to see this EDK. Let me just see if I still have my other. So look at it now. EDK showing. So I mustn't come and start accessing it by the index. I've just destructured it. So I can access it without the index. So that is just the structuring. Let me go back to our app and continue what I was doing before because it's part of what we are learning for today, the structuring. That's what you have here, the structuring. So let me just go back. Okay, I'm back. I'm still trying to, okay, I've defined my interface. Now, I'm going to come back to my, this parentheses. I will pass in those props here. I will destructure it, okay? That means I'm going to explain that, okay, that in my curly braces, which is this curly braces here, I have the title, and I also have the description, all right? And they are props, okay? That is this props here. All right. So once I've done it, all the errors is gone right now. This is because we're using TypeScript. If we're using JSS, we will not have to start doing this interface. But TypeScript is the best language. If when I'm teaching you React, I'm going to teach you TypeScript from beginning. All right, TypeScript is the best way, which is why if you're applying for a job, they ask for a front-end developer that knows how to use TypeScript. It helps for debugging purposes. When you are doing an application, it helps you to see problems before it get deployed. So, okay, now I've created these props. Now this title now will now, I will now pass it, all right? Okay, let me do for the first one first. I will remove this. Let me start from the first one first. So now I'm seeing an error here saying that uh, type is missing the following properties. That means title and description. It has to be declared. So the title and description will now be defined as an attribute. I can now say, let the title, let it be HTML, and let the description, let it be, I can just say, let me just type and say learn HTML from 0 to mastery. All right. So now when I write it, all of the errors are gone. If I check my site, let me collapse this console log. Let me go back to my, if I check my site, I'm now seeing it, HTML. Learn HTML from 0 to mastery. If I want to do for CSS, all I have to just do is just to use the code again, change this to CSS, and I can now say learn CSS from 0 to mastery. And when I check it, I have for CSS. If I want to do for JavaScript, all I have to just do is just to copy it and duplicate it. I'll change it to JS. So I'll say learn JS from 0 to mastery. So that way, I'll be able to reuse the component to create. Now I'm creating the content of the component dynamically. As I'm calling the component, I am defining the content of the component. So they're no longer having the same content, which is HTML. Now they are now having some HTML, some CSS, and some JavaScript. All right. So with that being said, let's proceed. Okay, for the image, actually, the image is very simple. Like the images is not okay. For now, let me just, because I want to just do, because we already behind time, right? Let me do for the other one because I want to give you guys a task. So I'm going to do one. Then if there's still time, we can now fix the issue of the images not showing, because the images is not showing because we have not actually downloaded these images from the UI. So let me just proceed to the next thing before I go back to the images. So I want to, if I show you my UI, let me go back to the UI. I want this to be a component because this can be a component that can be used here and here. All we have to just do is just change the title and the description. So I could just go to my code. I'll go to my app.txx. I think that should be this one here. I can copy out this code. I want to make it a component. So let me just cut it out. All right. So, okay, okay, let me just leave it. All right. So I'm going to create a component for this. Remember, all your components has to be in your SRC. So I'll right click on my SRC. I'll create a new file. I can call it that component. The name can be let me just say, what name should I use again? Let me say call to action. Yeah, just a call to action. Please, if you're creating your component, use Pascal casing. Call, it begins with capital letter, call to action. Pascal casing is just a way of writing that every single word starts with capital letter, call to action is. So call to action.csx. Because this is more of like a call to action. If you look at the UI, it's more of like a call to action button. Here it's telling you to learn, get started. Here it's telling you to subscribe to our email list, like which is call to action.tsx. So I want to create this component as usual. So to create a component, you know why I'm focused in this component thing is because I'm going to give people a task to create a component for me. So I focus this class on creating React components. I've taught you how to create a component. I've taught you how to pass props into a component. So I want to with this example, I want to repeat the process of creating a component and passing props because here we're going to pass those things as props. So to create a component, all you have to do is just say function. And you type the name of the function, which is call to action. Call to action. And you put in your curly braces. All right. Now I want to return those code that I copied. So I'll use the return keyword. It's a method. Inside that method, I will just pass in my fragment. And I'll paste those things that I copied. Let me use Control S to use pretty and format my code. Now this thing is not being exported, so I will export it by saying export. I want to export call to action. Sorry, I want to export export as default call to action. Then I'll go to my app.css and I'm going to make use of the component here. So I can just use my call to action. So I've made use of it. If I open my browser, you're going to see that, okay, it's now a component. I mean, if I comment this component, if I remove it from here, you're not going to see that component anymore. It's gone. If I put it back, it's back. Now I want this content to be rendered dynamically. All right. So what I want to do, I want to pass in props because this component is going to be used two times in this. If you see our UI now, it was used here and it was used here. So I want to be able to put the component and type in this as properties of the component. So let me do it. So to do it, all I need to do is to just use the same process. I would define the interface. So I'll go on top here. interface, my interface should be props. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. So we're almost done. All right, so interface props, then I'll come
Sorry.
here. All right,
Evans, so sorry to call. I
okay,
want to call your attention to some questions. I mean,
all
these
right,
are questions that I like following up. So Ife is asking, okay, before the first one, which is this second one, why do we install the React with JavaScript? I mean, maybe you can just check the charts, or you would want to
okay.
take the questions at the end. But I think it's better as these are questions that are just coming up while you're doing it, so it will be interactive in a way.
Yes, let me just, okay, let me answer these questions here right now. Okay, so the first question I'm saying here is, why do we install the React with TypeScript instead of JavaScript? And what's what is the difference between JavaScript and TypeScript? Okay, first of all, I would like you to know that TypeScript is not a language. It is JavaScript that is a language. All right, TypeScript is a language. Now, TypeScript is just a way of writing your JavaScript and observing the types. Because there's some things we do in JavaScript that, I mean, are not right. There are ways to write JavaScript that are not right. That when you're using JavaScript, it tends to ignore all of those errors and it just works. But in TypeScript now, it ensures that you are following best practice. You are describing the type of all of those um, variables and so on. So now, normally, if you, it's possible to create a React app using JavaScript. Yes, it's very much possible. All right. I mean, this is the way that when I learned React, I was using JavaScript. But as time goes on, if you really have been, if you've applied for some jobs, if you check very well, you will see that these days they want new developers to be abreast with the latest technologies. So TypeScript is still JavaScript, but just a better way of writing JavaScript. And then when you're creating a React app, when you install your React app using TypeScript, your files is not going to be normal JSX. You know, JSX means JavaScript SML. It's just a way of writing HTML in JavaScript. So TSX is the same. Is you're still writing HTML in JavaScript, but it just knows that it is TypeScript. So TypeScript is just a better way of writing JavaScript. It's a way of defining your types. And if you're building a project in TypeScript, all right, it shows you errors where anything that's not done well, it highlights as an error, pointing your attention to it so you can get corrected before it's being, before it's being built for deployment. So TypeScript is just a better way of writing JavaScript. It's actually optional. I mean, it's not as if it's compulsory, but because we are teaching you guys with the best technologies, that's why we decided to use TypeScript. Well, let me see sorry, I'm trying to go back so I can see if there are other questions. Um, okay. Okay, I can see another question. Okay, the next one said those error message are they by TypeScript or by VS Code? Yeah, there's some errors that comes in that is done by TypeScript, and there are some that is by VS Code. Like some of this one now telling you props is declared but never used. This is from TypeScript. All right. Some of them are actually done by TypeScript, and some are from VS Code. VS Code has its normal intelligence that when it sees some error, it's correct. But it's not an error that VS Code considered as an error. So if you have any questions, please. Sorry for not reading. I just noticed these two questions here. So just you can keep your question coming in, and then let's proceed. All right. So still on creating props, we're trying to pass props so that we can dynamically render different contents. Not that when we call the props, it just gives us something that is static. So we are in the place where, okay, where we are trying to define the properties. Props is just a short an acronym for properties, okay? So we want it to have, we don't want it to just have len, HTML, and CSS. I want it to be more of like a title. You mustn't use title, okay? I can say even say heading. Okay, I can say heading. Let me just use something different. Since I've used title before, I'll just say heading now. So I'll remove this thing here. I'll replace it with heading. Then let me just define these things here. All right. So I will say let the heading, let it also be a string. Let the heading be a string. Then I'm going to also destructure it here. I'm going to have to destructure it here. So I'll say I want heading and it should be for my props. Sorry, there's a colon here. Okay. Then I don't just really want the heading to change. I still want this description, or I'll call it message. Let me don't use, since I've used description before. So this should be message, or I can say copyright. Let me just say message for short. So here I'll come and describe this message as a string. Then also, when I'm trying to destructure this, I will include the message here. All right. So if I go to my app.tsx, it gives me a warning that like this error now is from your TypeScript telling that these props they're not being used. All right, that they're missing. Anytime you create a component that is carrying props, when you use that component, you pass the props along. So here now, I'll pass the props for the title. I want the title to be, let me pass the title. I'll just go to I can just go and copy it from this code. The title is learn CSS, JavaScript, and so on and so forth. So I'll copy it. Okay, because I'm writing so much, I can just break this into different lines. I can break this into different lines since I'm writing so much. So for the title, I want it to have all of this long text. So I've done for the title. Let me do for the message. So for the message, I'll just type in, let me go and copy message from here. All right, I think something is missing. Title, okay. TITLE is correct. I don't know why it's giving me a wrong. Let me see. Property title does not exist on type, intrinsic, and props. Let's go back and see. Okay, sorry. We don't have title. What we have is heading, not title. Sorry. What we have is heading. I'm still missing the other one and this one here. All right, so that error is gone. So I've been able to use this property, use this component by passing my props. And if I check it, everything works fine. So if I want to use that component somewhere below here, all I need to do is to just write the component. So somewhere below here, I want to use, let me first of all create the section for that mailing list. Let me create a section called newsletter section first. So let me create a section for that element. A section, I will give it an ID of newsletter section. So I want to use that component in that because I'm trying to use that same component to create this guy here. So all I have to just do is I first of all have to create the section. Okay, sorry. It's before the navbar. I'll create a section here. I'll give an ID of newsletter section. Then I'm going to call this component. I can just copy this component. I can copy it. I'll come here. Please, if you have a question, you can just go ahead. I'll paste this. So I want to change the contents. In my UI, the content I have here is join mailing list. So I can just copy this content here real quick. Looks like someone want to say something. So I'll copy this. I'm passing the right value of my props. So join mailing list. Then for the message, let me just copy the message real quick. I'm trying to just finish this design. I know I'm very much fast. I'm very much fast because of the time and what we're building. What we're building is much, and we only have just a very short time. Okay, so I've passed in those props, the right props. And if I check it, let me just use Preacher to format my code. So if I check it, if I go back to my app, I'm going to see this last one. You see, this and this were created from the same components. So what this what it has helped us to do now? It has helped us to avoid repetition because if you're writing a code, what we call dry code. Dry means do not repeat yourself. We're trying to avoid as much repetition, making your code lighter. It's making your code lighter. All right. These things now, these codes were written in one place and used 3 times. Likewise, this entire code was written in one place, was used twice here and here. Likewise, the navbar was written in one place and used twice. So we didn't write it 2 times. We wrote it once and used it twice. It's like using 1 stone to kill 2 birds. And this is like using 1 stone to kill 3 birds. So thereby making our code small. So as you are building complex applications, you see yourself making use of components. This is why I have to just emphasize more on components. There are many things to learn in React, okay? There's states. For now, I decided to leave states. There are many other things to learn, okay? But I just kept this simple to the curriculum. This class was just intended to show you, to teach you let, cons, arrow function, template literals, the structuring, then, sorry, let me just, component also, how to build components. All right, you have built navbar, build card. The assignment you guys are going to do for me, I will drop it in the group chat, is that if you look at this, our application, you will notice, let me go back to the UI. Let me just show you from the UI. You notice that we have 3 buttons in our UI. There's a button here, there's a button here, there's a button here. So we have 3 separate buttons. One is login, one is get started, one is subscribe. All right. So what I want you guys to do for me as an assignment, as a task, is that you are going to, because we write this button 3 times, which is more coding. We don't want that. So I want you guys to create this button as a component and use it. And you're going to pass in props. When you call the button here, you're going to pass in the props, which has to be login. When you call it here, the value of the props to be get started. And when you call it here, it should be subscribed. When you call it here, it should be logged into. So if you check our code, You can check for where all the buttons are being used. All right, you can create a separate component. You can call it button. I won't tell you what to do, but I'm just telling you the task. I won't tell you the process. So you just create the component, then we should use it because I don't like the fact that it was used 3 times. And if I open this navbar component, you're going to see where I hand code this login button. Let me go back in. If I still open this call to action, we still hand code a button here. This is the button here. If I same thing with our newsletter, so I want it to be a component that can be called. So that is the task for this, creating a button component. So are there more questions? Any question? We've done much in a very short time, and I mean, I know it's a whole information to grasp. Thank God the class is being recorded, all right? And that's why I want to encourage you guys, all right, to subscribe and learn the entire front end because this will be easy if we do a step-by-step project-based learning from HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then React, all right? So this will be a whole lot. But if you learn it step at a time, you are going to see it as a piece of cake. If I'm building, if that's, I don't waste time at all because it's already in my fingertips. This is because of years of practice. So when you learn these things, it will be in your fingertips. It won't be as if it's an alien concept. It won't be as if I'm speaking Greek and Latin. So are there any questions, please? Um, is it Hefe? I think so. I'm seeing a name called Hefe. Are there questions? Abdul Karim. Pardon me if I pronounce your name wrongly, please. Are there questions? Lade. Those persons who ask questions, I don't know. Did I answer your question correctly? Okay, okay. And if it's saying hooks, all right, React hooks. Now, this class was not intended for hooks. I'm trying to keep it simple so that it can be grasped, okay? So for now, we'll leave out hooks for now. All right. So there's some things we left out, we left out for, I mean, when the program will commence fully. That's when we'll take you from the grassroots. All right. So we'll try to keep it simple and to leave out some advanced stuff like use state hooks and the rest. My battery's already even low. All right. Any more questions? I, if there are no questions, we are going to stop here and you try the assignments. The same way you submitted, I'll be reviewing the one that you guys did previously. We'll check it. I mean, there's a reward for most of these tasks that is going to be given to you. So, like I said, the task for you guys is just convert all those buttons into components. All right. Then for Hefe, uh, okay, for hooks, I understand that really, yeah, this class is not intended for that. But just to just give you a quick one to explain what hooks are. It's just a function that lets you make use of some React features like states. All right. You may come across hooks when you are doing React states. Okay. So when we're treating full React, because these things are very good when we use examples. All right. Then sometimes you might want to render components just in some certain states. All right. Then we'll now use hooks. So when we're treating the full React course, we're going to take everything a step at a time. All right, thanks for the privilege. Thanks everybody, and I hope to see you guys when we begin the program fully.